Hi everyone, and thanks for joining us for this panel hosted by Deadline and German Films. I'm Tom Grater, Deadline's international reporter, and I'm joined here by three luminaries of the German TV biz, Hanno Hackfort, Christian Ditter, and Philipp Käßbohrer. So for this discussion, which is titled Face to Face with German Writers, Serious About Stories, and we're going to talk for about 45 minutes, and we're going to try and lift the lid on some of the recent successes in Germany's small screen business, analysing why the country has become a hotbed for exciting, boundary-pushing TV series. So Germany has had notable successes with major streaming services in particular recently, as they continue to push into European original content. And each of our panelists today has created a significant bit of programming for those online giants, such as the Amazon series You Are Wanted, Netflix series Biohackers, and also Netflix series How to Sell Drugs Online Fast. And so those are far from the country's only streaming successes, with other shows just such as Dark, to name one more example, also finding huge audiences both in Germany and, interestingly, I think, internationally as well. So we'll discuss why that's the case and also look at how the country's traditionally strong national broadcasting system is coping with the new streaming challenge. And of course, we'll talk about the impact of this pandemic and what changes this has made to work and where production is at now in Germany. So hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Could I please ask each of you to introduce yourselves briefly? And as a little icebreaker, I'd be interested to know what you have been watching in lockdown, if anything. So Hanno, do you want to kick us off?
Okay, I'm Hanno Hackfort, and together with my two colleagues, Bob Conrad and Richard Croft, I co-created and wrote all 3 seasons of 4 Blocks, and the first Amazon show in Germany, You Are Wanted, way back years ago. And what did I watch during the pandemic? I think the last thing was, well, I can't remember what the last thing was.
Biohackers.
I saw the first 15 minutes of Biohackers, but it's not fair to say that was the last thing I watched in total. No, I think it was something old. I think it was the last season of The Crown, I think. So we just started shooting 2 shows. So the last 2-3 months, I was really busy with working on 2 shows simultaneously. So there was not much time left to watch anything else.
Understandable. And I think 15 minutes counts as a view on Netflix. So
yes.
Not as a start, but not as a view, I guess. I'm not sure.
I can't remember. I think they changed it.
I don't know.
I know.
Philipp, you wanted
to allowed to talk about it. Like, so who's next? I'm next.
Sure, go ahead.
I'm Philipp Käßbohrer from Germany, and I wrote with my writers' room, of course, and co-showrun with my co-showrunner Matthias Mohrmann the show How to Sell Drugs Online Fast. We are right now in the middle of the shooting of season 3, and the shows I watched during the pandemic was I watched one Brazilian show which was called Boca a Boca, which was quite interesting. Kind of a mixture out of How to Sell Drugs and Euphoria. And I'm right now just watching Succession, which I'm addicted on. So it's like a great show.
Fantastic. For the first time?
Yeah, actually, yes, for the first time. I finally found some time and thought it might be the right moment to think about capitalism a bit.
Christian, I'm sure you've been busy with your show coming out and everything, but have you had time to watch much stuff?
Yeah, I did. So I'm Christian Ditter. I did Biohackers, so showrun it and wrote some and directed some. And I watched Unorthodox, which I thought was fantastic. So this is the last thing I've seen, but I've also been very busy recently, so I didn't watch that much.
Cool. Well, thanks for that. Let's dive in and talk right away then about these successful collaborations you guys have had with the online streamers. So Christian, I'm going to come back to you. I mean, you've had a pretty impressive career on what I would describe as both sides of the pond. I don't know if that's a phrase in Germany, but you know, both in Hollywood and in your native Germany as well. What was it like coming back from a run of these Hollywood movies to Germany to create this TV series Biohackers?
Well, you know, like first and foremost, I'm a director. Like more than, you know, I just came to show running because I had the idea for the series, basically. And like for me as a director, the work on set is the same. You know, you always are there with the camera and actors, and you try to create a, you know, nice atmosphere for them to, you know, like live in the moment and create the scene. And so it's pretty similar. Like from a writing perspective, like this was the show, you know, first show I wrote in general. So like I did like another Netflix show in America called Girl Boss, where I was producing director, but I didn't write anything. Kay Cannon was our fantastic showrunner, and I was very happy that I didn't, you know, have to do any writing. And so this was the first time I actually did that. So for me, it was a very new experience. And I wrote movies before, but you know, it was the first show. And you know, what was new for me was the collaborative aspect of it, because, you know, we set up a little writer's room, and I like that a lot, because usually I always dreaded writing, because I'm a person, I love being on set and I love working with actors. I love working with editors. I love the whole process, you know, when I'm not alone. And whenever I wrote like one of my movies, I was like locked in the room and I got like depressed, and I was like, oh my God, this is like the loneliest profession ever. It's like a little bit like what everybody is experiencing now in lockdown, I think. So like the writer's room, you know, version of it, I like very much, and I enjoyed it. So yeah, I hope that answered your question. I forgot. Yeah,
absolutely. And how has the reception been to the show since it launched?
Oh, it has been fantastic. So we are a #1 in Germany and #5 worldwide or something. We got like a ton of, you know, like my phone's going off like by the minute, like with social media stuff. And so it's like, it's really very rewarding. You know, after you put like a lot of work into something, to then, you know, like see people liking it. And you know, for example, like I directed How to Be Single, which was a big movie, and, you know, it had like a big audience all around the world, but it's still very different, because like I have the feeling when you create a show, like the feedback is much more, you know, one-on-one, like with people like, you know, tweeting at me from Brazil and all over the world going, you know, this is an experience I've never had before. So I really enjoy it. I really like it.
Awesome. And Philipp, I mean, so I understand you've worked across kind of different parts of the industry, and you're now producing quite a bit of kind of narrative TV, including your very successful show How to Sell Drugs Online, which recently got commissioned for a 3rd series. So congratulations. Tell us a bit about your TV work.
Yeah, it's like when we started, like when we were freshly like finished art school, we just as an experiment started a very experimental talk show on German television, which became very successful and critically acclaimed. So it was more or less, it sounds very boring. It was a talk show, but it had like fictional elements, and it was very anarchic. And so we started to make comedy shows actually in Germany, and like kind of trying to redefine comedy, and that comedy is not just like as Germans, like we are not very much well known for comedy actually in the world globally, or not for being funny at all. And we try to bring some seriousness to comedy in Germany, and to take this really serious, and as we learned it in film school, to take it as a real profession and not just as an accident. And so we then after that made like the like #1 late night show in Germany for many years now, and it was like kind of we're always trying to playing around with like media and stuff, and so from there we really kind of knew already how a writer's room works and how show running works, but we didn't really know that we already knew. And then when we started to make the show for Netflix, we actually learned that we are kind of really far ahead what that American television system means to work in, because we were really used to collaborative writing, and we had our systems for that. And like we worked in big writers' rooms for 6 years, like every day in writers' rooms with 10 to 12 people and stuff like that. And there is always, like in Germany, it's then called creative producer, but there's always kind of a showrunner in those unscripted television stuff. So it's like for us, it was we were really used to also those systems where you bring in then a director for hire for a certain part of the show, and then you take it back to the editing and stuff like that. So we kind of really could very fast, we're very fast attracted by that system, and it's very fun to work there.
Cool. I mean, no one who has seen How to Sell Drugs Online could still think that the Germans aren't funny. You have put those
we are the ambassadors of fun for the world, for Germany. No, yeah, it's like we're trying to change the narration there, but it's hard. It's like if you watch Dark, then it's like we are done again. There's no fun at all. So.
And Hanno, you have worked on some really interesting kind of varied TV. Tell us a bit about your journey.
Well, I started as a director and an assistant director, then director, and then I started writing. And just to earn money, I joined a group writing for a telenovela in Germany. Mm-hmm. And that was, 15 years ago. And there I met my colleagues, Bob and Richard, and in telenovela or daily television, you work together in a group. It's collaborative writing there since years and years and years. So we were used to that. And 10 years ago, after watching Mad Men or watching Lost or something, we decided, okay, let's do something like this in Germany. And we wrote a concept for a show, a pilot script for a show set in Berlin in the early 50s. It was a kind of Cold War spy show. So we had that, and we went to nearly every producer in Germany, and we were rejected everywhere. Everybody said to us, "Oh no, this drama series thing, this is just a passing phase. It's an American thing. Nobody will see that." So we put that in the drawer, but we worked on because we were sure that the day will come where shows from Germany will or where projects will be made in Germany. And years later, we had the opportunity to write the first Amazon show. It was a show with Matthias Schweighöfer, and it was a hard experience because we thought, oh Jesus Christ, cool! Now we can work like we always wanted to work, like with this freedom and kind of showrunner tasks, but at the end we just were. The director was the director, and he rewrote everything. It was a dark chapter for us, a hard way of learning. But at the same time, we got the green light for 4 blocks, which was a completely different experience, and that was great for us because there we made this experience that we were really part of a crew, part of a team. It's the same. We were all at the same level with the director, with the broadcaster, with the production company. So that was really cool. And well, now times changed, so we're in the driving seat now, at least.
Yes, good. And I'm interested to hear that you all have quite different journeys. So I think it would be cool to hear a bit more about how you developed these relationships with the streaming services. I mean, when you first kind of encountered those guys, were they actively pursuing content in Germany? Because we've seen this incredible influx of Netflix and Amazon executives and money into lots of different European territories. They have offices everywhere, and they're commissioning original content all over the place, but particularly in Germany, I think. So how did you form those relationships? Christian, do you want to begin?
Sure. So, my relationship with Netflix started with Girlboss, which Kay Cannon, the showrunner back then, and Charlize Theron, who was the producer, they brought me onto that. So, I met them through, other connections I've had. And so after Girlboss, they met and said, okay, let's meet. What do you have cooking? What do you want to do and everything? And so I I met with them and I told them about this world of biohacking that I've been reading about, and I said, okay, this is a show I can imagine. You know, I think there's a story there that might be interesting. And they said, can you imagine it in Germany? And I said, oh, okay, yeah, of course I can. You know, because we are biotech, you know, like very far ahead, like as a country. And they said, yeah, this was shortly after Dark had come out, and this was a huge success. And so they were actively looking for German content, and you know, they were reaching out to me and at that moment because they knew I was from Germany and they had worked with me, so they had a relationship with me, and they basically said, okay, we want you to do that show, we want you to go back. So they sent me back here, but it got commissioned in America. And so at the time, I pitched to Kelly Lugenbiel at the time, and so like the German office just got opened while this was all happening, while we were developing it. And so that's how it started basically. And then it was anchored in Germany and in the Amsterdam office, which is now the Berlin office. But my relationship came through the United States actually.
Okay. And Philipp, can you tell us a bit about how you set up How to Sell Drugs Online?
Yeah, it's from the day on, of course, when we started our career in media, we still wanted to do something fictional, of course, because that's what we learned in film school. And I was always directing stuff, and Matthias was always producing the stuff. And it's like, but in Germany, we were like in a box. So we made this kind of unserious comedy stuff, shows, unscripted. And so we were just like confronted with closed doors everywhere. And then when we heard that Netflix is going to make Dark in Germany, and we knew like they were on the market, we of course tried to reach out for them. And then we heard like they met all the production companies in Germany, and of course not ours, because like we were not in the film prize, we were just like in the Grimme prize and the comedy prize and the Fernseh prize. So it's like it was like the wrong awards. And so we tried just to reach out to them, and with this very interesting premise that we already had, because like we were working on this material about this teenage online drug dealer for a couple of months then already, or maybe even 1.5 years or so. And we always knew we couldn't pitch this project to any German station. There would have been a lot of questions that would have pushed the project in the wrong direction. So it was always clear we would have to find a bold partner. And they heard it, they liked it, but then they kind of didn't trust us to like make the project, because like we are also a very special company, because we are also the producers. We make everything in-house. We have our own post-production. Like we're then in the end making everything. Like there's no professional other partner involved, which like kind of frightened them maybe a little. And then we just kind of were annoying, I guess. Always called them. And then, in the end, Brian took the project to Rachel, and Rachel took it to Amanda, and then suddenly we started to make the show. And then everything was very quick. So it's like I don't know how much time we then in the end had, but it's like we went from December to it was June of like just developing one book and the outlines, and then we got a green light in June, and then we started shooting mid-October, and we like when the green light came, there were still 5 books missing. So everything really happened very, very fast in the first round.
Interesting. So, Netflix clearly very keen on German content. And Hanno, I mean, did you find Amazon in those early days, were they actively kind of moving into the German market?
Yeah, they were. They just started, and they searched for a project for. I think they searched for a project for Amazon and Matthias Schweighöfer as a package. And they approached us or the production company approached us if we had a story or a concept that could fit in this, for this package. So we said, we have something what might be okay for this constellation. And it starts from there. And on the other hand, with TNT, when we made 4 blocks, when the concept was written, our producer and Quirin Berg, he went, I think, simultaneously to TNT series and to Netflix, but in the end, TNT was faster. So we made it with them. Yeah.
Can you
but now it's sorry.
Sorry, no, go on.
No, go.
I was just going to ask you. I mean, could you talk a little bit about the differences between those experiences? Because I know all of this stuff is changing all of the time. But how did it feel, kind of producing a series for a streamer and then going back to working with a traditional broadcaster? What were the contrasts?
I don't know. I don't think that it was a typical production for a streamer. We had no contact at all with Amazon. We only spoke with a production company and with the guys in charge. So I don't know if Amazon had the scripts, nothing, no notes, nothing, no contact. And I think it was because the crew wasn't built up yet. It was in the very early days, and I think they produced it like they would have produced a blockbuster Warner comedy for cinema. And we were just the writers. So, and going back to a more traditional company like TNT series was the complete other way around. They worked as we thought a streamer would work. So we made the same experience as now we do with, for example, with Sky or when talking with Netflix. So that was had nothing to do with our experience with the old television when we returned to linear television.
And yeah, I definitely want to talk about how the broadcasters have reacted to this kind of influx of streaming services recently. But just staying on the streaming note for a second, I'm interested to hear these platforms are global, and your series have performed well, like I said in the intro, not just in Germany, but also in many international markets, very disparate international markets. When you were speaking to them about setting up these series, did they indicate that they were looking for something quite German and culturally specific, or were they kind of encouraging you to write something that would play across those boundaries? Who would like to answer that one?
Like, I think to begin, I think it's very interesting and challenging for Germans, because like in our education we learned to be proud of not being proud, and and that it's very dangerous if a German idea goes global. So it's like it's something we have in our vein, and so therefore it's like it's a bit frightening if you hear that you now have this, like, you can say whatever you want and maybe it goes out to the whole planet. And but of course they are kind of, I think I can just talk for Netflix now, but they of course are looking for local content that's like think local, act global, or something like a businessman would say, I guess. And they want to make the shows, of course, feel like they are origin from somewhere, like they are addressing problems, specific problems from those areas and stuff like that. And I think at least if it comes to humor, it's even more special, because like humor and comedy is like, generally it doesn't travel very well, because like it has to be very specific. You always have to deliver the specifics to then make fun of them. It's like it's always feed line, punchline. So you have to fuel the audiences also with information first, which are often very specific. But I think the interesting part of the process was like that in the first season, for example, we had this like producer from LA, and now in the second and the third season, we have one producer from Germany and one producer from Great Britain, and like in interacting with them and like discussing our topics and our ideas and our humor and the dialogues with them, it's very interesting that we always have this foreign perspective on what we are doing. And I think it's like, it's not that they are pushing us to reach global audiences. It's just like, I think the process just makes it more intercultural understandable, because like they are working more cultures in there. And it's like last year we, for example, had the chance to meet some creators at the Netflix headquarters in Amsterdam from all over the world, and they just brought some together from Africa and Turkey and Italy and Spain and stuff like that, and all the producers also were there. And then you really could see like the difference is that they also have this like great producers from all over the planet. They brought together. It's not just American producers who now want to educate the world how to do good content. Like they really have the producers from the markets, and they bring them together. And I'm pretty sure, because they are all sitting in one big office in Amsterdam, I'm pretty sure that they are interacting with each other. And of course they talk about different topics when they have like a bad feeling or a question. And it's like through this kind of very diverse, very interesting and open structure, the contents, I think, are getting naturally more global.
That's really interesting how that mesh of producers is changing things. And then also we're seeing it in audiences as well. Audiences are more than ever, I think, willing to watch things from outside of their immediate purviews. Christian, was it similar?
Even flus are now global. It's like, there's not a flu for every country each. It's like, it's just one flu for everyone.
We can't blame Netflix for that, though. I don't think. Christian, I mean, so Biohackers more of a drama. Obviously, it has some comedic elements as well. But I mean, would you say it was a similar thing, the way you approached that?
It was a very similar experience because, like, you know, as I mentioned, the project started with an American executive on it. And then, you know, when they built up the Amsterdam team, we had like a British executive, and then we like a German executive came on. And in the very early stages, you know, it was like they approached me, you know, like in America to do something that is set in Germany, and they wanted it very specifically German. They wanted it for the German market, and, you know, they wanted it to be, like very, very specifically German. At the same time, you know, when I handed in like the first like outlines and stuff like that, they were like, why are these people living in the same flat when they don't study the same thing, you know, which is like totally common here. But in America, it's like not very common because you live on campus and stuff like that. And so, you know, I had a similar experience that, yes, make it specific, but still make it, you know, so that everybody understands it, you know, who's not inside just Germany. So basic. And I think that's a balance, you know, which is interesting because when I watch shows from other countries, I think they are more interesting the more specific they are to their cultures, because this is something I can only watch on Netflix and something that is new, something that I couldn't have seen 5 years ago anywhere else. And so I'm excited about this. So I wanted to make it specifically German. But then, you know, I write a script, we write the script in German. The first thing that happens is it gets translated, you know, and then all the, you know, English speaking, like producers of Netflix read it. And so it's a process, and I think it automatically leads to, you know, internationalized content in a way, which I'm open to anyway. The whole reason why I started making films, in the United States is that I was brought up on, you know, American films. I was brought up on American television and stuff like that. It's not like that I dislike German films. I never disliked them or something, but I like my filmic DNA is more an American DNA. And I think you always make the stuff you like. And I think it feels natural for me, you know, to make shows that are a little bit in that pop cultural zone anyway. So it felt like we didn't really discuss it, like how many percentage German or how many, you know, it's just happened naturally, basically.
Interesting. And do you think, I mean, when you receive a renewal, I mean, if a series has performed particularly well in certain territories outside of Germany, I mean, would that influence how you would write the next series?
It's sometimes like greetings to a specific audience. It's like we, of course, have special Easter eggs for our Brazilian fans or something like that, because we are so surprised. Okay, like
great.
A bit normal that they like German stuff in Brazil, but it's like we also have Italian fans and stuff like that. So it's like it's very interesting, and of course we also address other bubbles. So we see, for example, fans on Reddit, and we have a Reddit bubble, and of course then we take some stuff and screenshot their stuff that they were writing in it, and then we have it in the second season and place it in the show, and then they're like mind blown on Reddit. So it's like, of course, we play with it, and it's super exciting for us to have those audiences.
I love that. It's very cool. And we've spoken a lot about Netflix and Amazon. I'm interested, some of their other online rivals, Apple, Disney, Peacock, HBO, are you having conversations with these guys as well? Are we expecting an influx from these streamers into Germany soon?
Yes, I think so. We talked to nearly to all of them, or they talk with us. I don't know. Well, I don't want to. Well, okay.
Now be very careful what you say.
One has to be very careful. I don't think that all this we talked about the last minutes is just a benefit, because when I look at myself, I got more and more bored by the things I see, because it's not just the it's the way of storytelling. It's all, you may say, oh yeah, it's internationalized, but it's like listening to the charts the whole day and again and again and again. It becomes more and more everything's it's more, it's flattened, not artistically, but it's all like the individual handwriting, the individual way of telling stories is like flattened somehow. And I think that especially we work for, we make a show with Sky at the moment, and compared to the collaboration with other streamers, they are much more open. Even though they say we have to show this all around the world, they say, but we want to tell it more individually. We want to it's uncommon, this way of dramatizing this story, but maybe it's interesting. On the other hand, we made the experience that others, they say, no, people won't understand if we tell it like this. Let's do it in a conventional way, like blah 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 blah, the way we all learned it. And I think that this is kind of a tendency that it becomes more and more slick and all the same. And I hope that the variety of companies, like other companies coming to the market, that they have to, because they have to separate them from each other. They are going to look for different ways of storytelling, for a little bit braver ways, maybe again, and that this somehow enriches the way of storytelling.
And I think that a very good thing is like that in Germany, of course, we now have a kind of so-called talent war. I think it was a bit like until a big topic until then Corona came, and now everyone has to sort themselves, of course, because of how to keep on producing. But it's like we have this talent war, and we lack of good writers, because like as you can see, like we all come from not very normal writing education backgrounds. It's like like if you have like this writer type in Germany who wrote movies or also television movies, it was also always connected with like scarves and drinking wine and sitting alone in the Toscana or on the terrace and writing stuff. Like it's still like something. This was bad. Yeah, it's like
sounds like Hanno's holiday.
Also upsides about it, like if the red wine is good, but it's like it's like this kind of idea of auteurs and stuff like that that's still there, and that's like the education also on the film schools. They educate you in this direction, and of course that doesn't really fit the industrial idea of making great television internationally. But we all know that it doesn't always lead to great stuff, but it sometimes leads to great stuff if you bring in the right people. And that's, for example, an experience that we make right now with Netflix. They are super open. They don't like in the beginnings, of course, they were careful, and they were like, you are not so experienced with that kind of stuff. Maybe bring some experienced writers, maybe someone who already wrote a Tatort, which is our shitty version of CSI Miami, maybe. and like, but what everyone has to do in Germany to be part of the industry, and now they really kind of ask us, but don't you want to bring in maybe 1 or 2 writers from Twitter who never wrote the show, and just sit in the writers' room and let's see where it takes us and stuff like that. For our 3rd season, we brought in a writer who never wrote a script before, and for a couple of years now, we work with him writing on sketches and stuff like that. And suddenly he wrote his first script in season 3, and now he wrote another because it was a good work. And this is all like liberalizing everything a little bit. And I think that's then on the other side, the upside, that there's space in this system for people like that who would have never had a chance in like the old system. Of course, also ourselves, we would have been stuck in this one box ever, I guess. And now we can just break out of it and just to make experiments, which is basically really, really cool that I also hope that maybe, I don't know, Disney, of course, has its catalog of stuff you cannot do, and Apple has as well. And Amazon, is also very focused on selling books and shoes online and stuff like that. So it's right now, Netflix is a very good partner for us because they're really into content because that's the only thing they do. But I'm really looking forward to everything that comes there.
There's 2 of the very interesting concerns and criticisms thrown at the streamers, one being the talent drain, which you've just addressed there very eloquently. And then the other one, of course, is this idea of the homogenization of content, the algorithm. Have you guys experienced the algorithm? Do you speak about the algorithm with Netflix?
No, no, go ahead. It hasn't been brought up in the development of the show at all, but now in the release, obviously they don't really like to talk about it, but I'm asking about it because I'm obviously curious, and I'm curious about all the insights they have, which they very reluctantly want to share. So the algorithm is this myth, and I have some idea how some things work, but it's not. When telling a story, you have to tell the story you would like to see, and I think it's much more connected to what I like as an audience member. And just for me, I like watching Netflix shows, so I think this is a good spot for me right now to make a show. So this is how I approach every project. It's the only question I think you should ask yourself as a creative: is this something that I want to see? Because you're going to spend the next 1, 2, whatever, 3, in your case maybe 5 years with it, for how to sell trucks or whatever. So you better like it, otherwise it sucks to be stuck there. And so the algorithm is a very fascinating thing, but it's like the Coca-Cola recipe a little bit. They don't, I don't know if they share more if you go into season 3 or whatever, but so far.
So I don't think you have had your after a couple of days update, you get this update, where they really share some numbers with a very small group of people, and it's very interesting. And of course, they do all their marketing stuff. It's always a great presentation and with a lot of fun, and it's fun to talk about, of course. But then they really leave you alone. It's with all that stuff, and they really could increase that algorithm-based stuff a lot because they, of course, have a lot of data and they exactly know which scenes are watched twice and to maybe because of any reason why, because people didn't get it and stuff like that. So you really could drag something out of there, but they are really not very willing to give you that information, even if you ask. So it's very good, and they protect you from going there because we all know it's not a good thing to go there. It's and then it's the other thing, of course, but that's also maybe because of our origin, but of course we like this whole part of that you also mentioned earlier of social media and interaction and people really thinking about your characters in a way you never have thought about them, and then you learn about something and maybe you implement it in the next season and stuff like that. So that's really big fun.
Mm-hmm. And has the implementation, do you think, of the top 10s that are public facing, has that changed things? Because we've heard for years how successful some of these shows are, but now you can see it in all kinds of different territories. It must be quite validating.
Well, like for me, BIOHACKERS just came out, and for us it's great. We're also very lucky that we are in high positions in a lot of countries. So I love checking it out. So but I'm in a fortunate situation right now. So ask me again in 4 weeks might be very different. I don't know, but. It's like when Girlboss was released like 2 or 3 years ago, like we didn't know anything, and I wasn't even the showrunner, so I did know even less than anything. So, and this was just like, released into a void, like at least from my perspective, because like when you have a film and you have a premiere and you get a feeling of, you have like an audience reaction and you get a sense of how it, connects. And so I think like, for me, it's rewarding to see the top 10s. I do like them. So far.
Like Hanno said, because like you made up this great picture of like, it becomes like listening to the charts. I really hate the top 10, actually. I met Ted Sarandos once. It was before the top 10. And I tried to warn him about stuff like that, but he kind of didn't take it serious, obviously. I would have, if I met myself, well, I would have been Ted Sarandos. But it's like, I really think like when you watch, like you can see it in Germany very much, because we had for a very long time, we had this like system without counting the viewers, because we have like this very huge public service television station system, which is like very important for German media. And then late to the party, there was this like private system, which like was a capitalized version of television. And they, of course, had to start counting the viewers, because like they had to sell the commercials and stuff. And then one day, the public service television station joined this process, like to be comparable, because like there's always this political question: are they still relevant or not? And they try to prove it, of course, also with numbers. But if you watch the program historically, it's like it's getting shittier from that day on. It's like really, it's like it's obviously it's you can prove it scientifically that it's like before that we had filmmakers like who worked in television, like Fassbender or Edgar Reitz, who made a show called Heimat, which is like still one of the greatest television series ever made, and it was made in Germany in the 60s or 70s, and everyone kind of watched it, but no one knew how many people watched it. And it was like there was really great stuff happening, and the more they watched the numbers and counted the numbers, the more they got careful and were like, but maybe we should release that on that place because maybe it doesn't get good ratings, and then we get shit from the press and stuff like that. So it's like you really can see what it makes with the content. So therefore I always was very happy for the original concept of just not saying how much thing is watched. So and then I can believe like I watched I'm Not Okay With This or something like End of the Fucking World, and I could either say, I think I'm one of the only ones who found it on Netflix, or I could say I think everyone in the world is watching it. But it's like it's something I could do with the art, and it's not like someone told me. But I also totally get your feeling of being happy to be in the top 10. It's like it's certainly something I was super happy about as well. Of course, it's rewarding.
And so with all of this change that has been prompted by the streamers and Germany's traditionally very strong public broadcasting and private broadcasting companies, I mean, how have they reacted to these changing times? You know, how do they feel about this influx, and have they been doing things differently? Hanno, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, I think, well, it depends. It's such a broad picture. Things have changed. If you are, especially if you are a writer, you get more acknowledged as a writer. You have more. Your position is higher now. I think that's one of the things that's changed. I don't think. Well, if you say I want to do a 6-part drama series, things have changed because now they do 6-part drama series. even though they will air it as three 90-minute pieces, but they do it, and they try to find places where to broadcast them. But as far as the traditional television is concerned, like you mentioned Tatort earlier, or the crime stuff, the traditional German crime TV, I don't think that anything has changed there. That it's an industry. It worked, and so why should they change it? So, but if you do something like Bad Banks, for example, that's possible now with the ZDF. That was not possible 5 years ago or 10 years ago.
I'm really sorry to say, but we have run out of time. I feel like there's so much more we could cover. But, that was fantastically interesting. So, thanks, guys. Thanks very much for being involved.